me say a special good morning to one and all. Welcome to the point for today, Monday. It's the 21st day of August, 2023. And let me say good morning, first and foremost, once again, to my listeners. Those of you via Classic Radio, good morning, 105.5, 105.9. Those of you who are viewing us this morning via GBN TV, whether it's channel 7, 11, or channels 20, good morning. What about my social media audience? Those of you via the Facebook page, YouTube channels, good morning, and welcome to another edition of To The Point. Let me say good morning to my co-host. It's been a while, like we were missing in action for some reason, if we could say that, for some reason.
Yes.
But we certainly do understand the reasons why. But good morning and welcome. Welcome back.
Yes, good morning to you, GT. It seems as though it's been a few months since we have not had this program. I mean, a lot has happened since then.
3 weeks in concession, we can say that.
Yes.
3 weeks in concession that we were unable to have the program, but welcome back.
And we understand, I guess, as you said, the reason for it. So let me just say pleasant good morning to all of the audiences from everywhere, whether you're following, whether you're listening or you're viewing. It's always my pleasure to be here. And GT and I guess we complement each other very well in terms of articulating the issues where emergencies are concerned and where security issues are concerned, and at times the social issues that affect people from time to time, family, domestic, and the impact that we want to make societally in terms of having our society become better generally.
All right. As usual, we talk about emergencies. We talk about, there might be a particular hazard that is developing out there or whatever systems. And, for the last couple of weeks, there have been lots of things developing out there.
Yeah.
That's happening. I'm looking at the news this morning, and, out in California in the U.S., it's a little bit out of our jurisdiction, but it's always good to have that bit of concern about these things.
Yeah.
You understand? And I've been listening to some of the residents in the area on one particular news channel, and they say, hey, it's not something that we are accustomed to, enough in their part of it. Not that they have never had it, but it's been so long that they had a system coming in their neck of the woods.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes. It's close to 50 years, I think.
Yeah.
It's the reality of climate change and climate variability. And what has not happened in a million years can happen just in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And for us, we have to get used to the change in times, and we have to do all what is considered comprehensive disaster preparedness or readiness, and we have to face the eventualities that we've not faced. I was following even the heat pattern, and I think this year we've had the hottest days on record globally. And that again is a reality check that climate change is really impacting planet Earth. And if it is impacting planet Earth, it means therefore that humans are at risk. And so we need to be able to do those mitigating issues.
I've been listening to a marine biologist speaking on a program, in the wee hours of this morning, and it was actually speaking about the warmth of the sea, how warm it is, and she's saying that it's becoming a bit of a concern in terms of the oceans or the waters are that warm. It comes to, I don't think it have never been like that before in most of the areas where they are. You expect the oceans to be cold, you understand?
Right.
And they say the waters are that hot out there, so it's
so that heating of the ocean and air surface temperature, etc., it does have its implication for marine life, obviously, and marine biology, in the sense that you can have depleting of the coral reef that are sometimes closer up. And we understand that what the coral really is to our fishing industry or general marine life in itself. And when you have the bleaching of those coral reefs because of the exposure to the sun, it means that you can have water moving in certain places that they normally would not have moved, and you would have our marine life in terms of the fish, etc. They might be moving to other temperatures in places that might be more conducive to their repopulating the areas. So fish would need a particular temperature for them to procreate and so forth. And when it becomes too hot or too cold in a particular area, they would shift to the place where it is better or it is more conducive for their kind of survival. And this is why at times during the hurricane season and preceding a tropical cyclone, sometimes you see the fish moving in huge schools.
Yes.
You would see them along the beaches. You would see them moving from north to south in some cases, or from south to west or northwest, as the case may be, because they're looking for the places that are better. And this is why our tradition, the people who know what to look for in terms of when there is a change in the atmosphere, that's one of the signs that they look for, the movement of the fish. And you see a lot of jacks, people catching a lot of jacks, catching a lot of fish. You hear they speak about that pre-Hurricane Ivan. That's one of the things that they saw, and they knew something was happening. And within the last couple of days, the excessive heat that we were feeling, it was inevitable that we were going to get some rain somewhere down here, and that we were going to have tropical cyclones forming. Fortunately for us, they've not directly affected us, but there are tropical cyclones out there, tropical waves that are forming, and they are bringing insistent rains. Just a follow-up on that, though, in terms of where we came from in our forecasting and in our dealing with weather patterns.
Yes.
In times past, when rainfall, and people just say heavy rain. But what I recognize now is that once the meteorologists give a particular forecast and NADMA amplifies it or expand on it in terms of saying that what people are to expect, the local word out there is that a bad weather is outside. I think you've heard that. And
I've heard it numerous times.
Yes, and that has to do with a particular era of people. That once it comes from NADMA, once Met sees something, whether they're saying it's a tropical wave or a strong trough that is coming through that will bring some rain or likely thunder or thunder showers, the weather on the ground, people say, NADMA say, bad weather outside.
Bad weather outside.
You should start shopping. You shouldn't go outside. You should not go to...
Would you agree with the local sentiments expressed like that?
I don't want to really... I think saying bad weather sometimes create the wrong message. It's not really bad weather, and weathers are really bad, are they? Technically not, but it depends on what the impact it can have. But when people hear bad weather, it gets the feeling that it is really dangerous, and people should not go outside, you should not go to your garden. It is also an indicator that people are not well informed or sufficiently informed as to how they can adjust to particular weather. And the terminologies, I guess, I've heard people say that Met needs to break it down a little bit more in terms of, but if Met says it's going to rain, it's going to rain. If they say heavy rain is going to come, heavy rain will come.
Or they might say we may get thunderstorms.
And I grew up with thunder and lightning and heavy rains.
I mean, I understand some folks are out with the everyday conversation in terms of how they speak.
Yes.
But sometimes who you say it to interpret it differently.
You absolutely right.
Interpretation is a key word in there. How individuals interpret it.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
They hear, we're going to have rain and we're going to have thunderstorms. They're thinking, well, that's going to be bad weather.
That's right.
The thunder part, I think, present that kind of, scenario for them. Hey, we're going to have a bad weather.
And this is why people like myself who's trained in particular area would like to, bring it down to the layman's term that saying a bad weather carries the wrong message.
Yes.
It is okay to say, well, we may get some rain, we may get some flood, landslide, and so on, but just telling people bad weather outside, it brings a bad message, really and truly. So it creates some level of panic.
The stigma of the word bad. You understand? When they say bad, then folks will always something of a negative nature coming around.
That's right. Because those rains that came, I love when the rain fall. Because there was one time when I knew there was going to be thunder showers. That's the vibes for me. I go out to the garden and I want that rain to fall on my back. I would push the fork, I would get the hose going, I would move. And you're working for the entire day for hours.
Some folks motivation.
You don't feel it, man. Because I prefer to work when it's raining or it's overcast than when the sun is beaming down. Your energy does not get used up so much when it's overcast.
That heat drains you and stuff like that at that time. So
it means that more people should understand and listen, because the message is in the music, basically. So you just listen and try to interpret what they're saying. But people take just an aspect of it and then they go with it. Bad weather, they forget that they can do the normal chores. They could go around with an umbrella. They could move around in their vehicles, and just be careful.
Over the weekend we did get some reports from the Met Office and NAGMA's put out saying that we were going to experience some inclement weather also.
Yes.
But it didn't hit us to the magnitude as it was reported.
You think so?
I thought we got it to the magnitude. I mean, maybe in Grenada, I look at Trinidad and stuff. They did get a lot of water along there, but we didn't get it to the magnitude of which we probably thought we would have gotten it in terms of how it was reported. If I could say it in that way.
Right. So then it goes back again to the level of sometimes the interpretation as to the levels that you expect. And this is why when NADMA and the Met Office, they're crafting the message, they have to put it in such a way that you get the best out of it. Yeah. And you get to understand the closest to reality as possible. But what also is the other aspect of it is that the science of meteorology and so forth and forecasting is not the easiest, and they're not always very accurate.
It's only a prediction they're having. Yeah, they only predict.
Predictions or forecast. And so, because again of the reality of climate change and climate variability, within seconds after something has been forecasted and reported, the atmosphere can change. And a lot of factors could be responsible for, in some cases, let me just go back, like Grenada again is not as small as we think it is. And we've seen rainfall in Grenada in about three different levels at the same time. You'll have very, very heavy showers in St. Patrick. You may have lighter showers on the St. David eastern to eastern northeast side of the island, and then on the west coast coming towards the south, you may also have a different kind of rainfall. Now remember that the topography or the land itself, based on what exists, may generate more water than other places. The lower southern land plain, because it is flat, sometimes it attracts less rainfall. And so evaporation is easier in the lower land because the heat level could spread faster, and then it can cause the moisture to evaporate. And the higher areas where you have the mountainous side that are closer to the cloud covers, it will draw most of the moisture, and so precipitation is easier and heavier rain is easier in those areas at times. And so sometimes people don't understand and say, well, you said it was going to happen. Somebody told me that yesterday. They said it was going to be so bad, we're going to have flooding and etc. But actually, some parts of the island did get some heavy rain. Yes. The thunder was there. But I agree with you to a large extent that how it came across, it did not quite happen. And the factors may have been a change in atmospheric conditions, and it was to our advantage as it was not this bad. And this is why our meteorologists have to be so on point that we now use them for planning purposes. So that you go about your day-to-day basis, you're having an event or otherwise, you want to ensure that you're tuning to the Met services and the reports as to what's happening. I know people do that in North America and other places. They would look at the forecast for the week and plan their week because it is available. And so in Grenada, we're doing that now as well. There's a forecast that is available for the week, and a daily forecast or a daily weather news that can have slight changes as it goes along. But it is okay to follow, and the average person who gets caught are the ones who really do not listen attentively to the information.
I certainly agree with you from that point of view, because sometimes, the individuals who put the attention in the public part of it, comes out in public, are the ones who show their interest.
Yes.
And sometimes they bring it across in their own interpretations, which may just kind of sometimes sound a little bit misleading for some reason or the other. That's what they understand. So back in time, we drew for a break, and let's take it. Folks, when we come back, we want to open up the lines a little bit early. We want to talk about, your feelings about, the emergencies, how you think it should be dealt with, especially after the carnival season that just wrapped up.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on it? Were you part of a notice an emergency that maybe could have been handled better in terms of how it was, and so forth. So the lines will be open, and we can have that conversation about that as we move through this morning. Stay with us. We coming right back. It's To The Point for today, Monday the 21st. Stay with us, folks. We coming right back.
NIS, our team proudly works to support the evolving needs of Grenadians. We have made some changes to our operations and want to keep you informed. Firstly, we are happy to introduce the new unemployment benefit. This benefit will provide an insured person with 50% of his or her former income in the case of sudden unemployment. To support this benefit and other benefits we offer, it was necessary to increase the contribution rate. The contribution rate will increase gradually each year until it reaches 16% in 2031. As always, the contribution will be split between you and your employer. The pensionable age will also increase from 60 to 65 years. This increase will also be gradually reaching age 65 in 2029. Pensioners will continue to be eligible for a pension from age 60, but will receive a reduced payment. The NIS recognizes that the prices of basic customer goods are increasing globally. Therefore, we are happy to also increase the weekly minimum pension payment by 25%. Finally, we have adjusted our survivor's benefit payment to a percentage of the age pension minimum. Widows, widowers, and dependent parents will receive 100% or $58 weekly, while children will receive 50% or $29 weekly of the deceased's pension. We are here to make the transition to these new changes as clear and simple as possible. If you have any questions on how these changes impact you and your family, please contact our new informational hotline at 440-6647 or visit www.nisgrenada.org. Thank you for allowing us to be your social security provider.
When I'm getting ready for the road, I ensure to turn off the tap when I'm brushing my teeth and soaping up in the shower. These simple steps save gallons of water. A true masquerader saves water. And just so already.
Save water! Save water!
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's to the point for today. It's Monday, the 21st day of August. And let me say welcome once again back, Mr. McIntyre. We do have a caller, but this caller wants to chime in on us this morning on what we mentioned before we took the break. Let's go to the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, GT, and morning, Mr. McIntyre. I think Mr. McIntyre was right when he said that about the focus. You can have a focus, and immediately as you get a focus, the condition of the weather change, because the weather is not a movie, as people would sort of approach it. So there's a fixed kind of scene. There's so much dynamics that we have no control of. Years ago, Lou Smith used to become under fire when he used to say there's no bad weather, there's only different kind of weather. I think if we can get people to become less superstitious and fearful and understand nature, I think the key is understanding. And we have to start early to help people to understand that in spite of what they've been told or taught about God punishing people for all this kind of nonsense, and all this kind of nonsense, nature would be what it is. The Carib people, the indigenous people, the Kalinago people live here for hundreds of years, and they cope. They work with nature. What we have been doing is working against nature and hoping that nature wouldn't be what it is. So, having said that, I think one of the key we need is, or some of the keys is understanding. Then we need to emulate Cuba. We look at Cuba as a poor, whatever country, but Cuba is an outstanding example where the system they have created in relation to weather or preparedness or disaster preparedness ensure that a minimum of loss of life. If there's any major situation here, I'm not too sure if we really prepare, because to me, even as I make use of the NASMA information and I share it around, sometimes I get the impression that people don't care. They don't even want to, whether come and all, they say God will protect and all this nonsense. We need to become more scientific in our approach. And also, I want to raise the issue of heat. The heat, this is something I've been raising for the last year, two or so years. In some parts of the world right now, they're developing what they call a heat standard. I think we should come to the point that we have, definite heat index, so that, and also standard in which employers should be able, should protect the workers, like health and safety. Some of the workers, people who work outside, are in danger of losing their life because of the heat. We need to take all of these things, and we need to do it collectively. I mean, sometimes I'm a little bit frustrated at the level of ignorance and stupidity. I mean, our people engaged. We need to put that aside and become a nation of learners, doers, actors, people who are supporting and helping each other. So that by next year, we shouldn't have to wait so long to know the disaster center. And we should be confident that they are sound, that we can go into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, I just want to follow up a little bit on what the caller said in terms of the heat index in defense of the Met services, that there is definitely a heat index, and kudos to them. I think just over the past 2 weeks, they did send out a warning for people with regards to heat and so forth, and how they should treat themselves. I think that's a plus for them, and I think we've gone a long way, and we have to give kudos to the Met services. They get more criticism than kudos, but I think those warnings that are coming now, they basically are on the ball.
Yeah, and I agree with some parts of what the caller said also, because it has gotten down to a stage where we put a lot of attention into what is not important to what is important.
Absolutely,
you understand? And he said, people are not taking the time out to, of course, educate themselves about what's to come.
Yeah.
We cannot deal with the immediate, if I can say that. It's happening now, so we deal with that, but we're not thinking, hey, in a month from now, things might be different. In a week from now, things might be different. And I think that's a crucial point the caller did make. Let's entertain another caller. Yeah. Caller, good morning. Welcome. Good morning to you, caller. I guess we lost that caller there for some. Caller, good morning. Welcome. Caller, good morning. For some reason, the caller has... Good morning to you, caller.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, sir. Go right ahead with your contribution, please.
I always admire Mr. Sylvan, because it seems to me that he nearly always, more than 99%, talk the truth. And I'm always saying, I understand him. And when I look at him, he said I think this way, he said that some people are giving wrong information. Let me give you one example. He talked about rainfall. Every time I listen to weather forecast in Grenada, they tell you most times about Pine Saline, how much rainfall that was in Pine Saline. Does that tell you about the rainfall of the whole of Grenada? We expect them to have the less rainfall according to the location. So they themselves, to some extent, I don't know if it's 99%, are giving wrong information to me, and maybe to Mr. Sylvan or others like him, because I commented on all these things already. And in fact, even I commented on the word understanding and interpreting. Everybody has a right to interpret, but some people interpret things wrongly. What we have to do is not interpret. We have to understand, and every word in a sentence should and must mean something. This is what people understand. But I admire you, Mr. Sylvan. And people, anything you do, you read, you have to understand. You read, you have to understand, not interpret. Anything somebody says, you have to understand what they say. If they say the sky red, you have to understand the word red. It means something. And this is what we lacking in Grenada. Everybody has their own idea. But some have ideas far-fetched from what the person is saying. In fact, a lot of people in Grenada, I don't know who, don't sometimes like what I say. Well, especially when I'm talking the truth. The truth shall offend nearly everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution this morning. Made some sense.
Yeah, it did make some sense, but there's something called AWS, Automatic Weather Stations, and it is not that obviously they're giving incorrect information, and this is why they specifically say the rainfall recorded here at the Point Salinas Met office. They are specific with that because I do understand that they may have some challenges themselves in accumulating the total amount of rainfall across country. They may be limits in terms of the AWS that exist and how they can put together the information at one time to give the general. But what they do, they would accumulate the information and they would give you the amount of rainfall recorded over a given period. So maybe there's something they need to do a bit bit better to just capture all of the rainfall across the country. They can enhance their capacity to be able to do that, so he's absolutely right. But they are specific that when they give you the rainfall, they say it's specific to Point Sylvan, so you'll understand that it could vary to other parts of the island. I was one of those.
It could more likely be is what they recorded at Point Sylvan because of what they got from other areas also. I'm just suggesting.
Well, but they probably would not say it that way. They probably say rainfall across the state. But if they say at Point Sylvan, it means that that's what they accumulated in the Point Sylvan's area at their service station that collects the rainfall.
Okay.
So if they do give a national caption, but when they give the weather news, they are specific to saying this is what being captured here at the Met Office at Point Sylvan. So that is to not mislead people to say that's what it is. Because if they just say this is what it is, people think that that's what we receive generally. So as I said, there's an opportunity for them to be able to enhance and capture and report holistically what's happening across country. I was very critical to meteorologists across the Caribbean one time at a meeting, I think it was in Cuba, and I said, we need to upgrade, fellas. We need to be able to forecast to people what's happening in their neck of the woods. I said it happened in other territories, and we should move as a Caribbean towards the point of saying in St. George's, in this place. But what they've said is that the areas that other countries broadcast, it's so broad that they are able to do that. But in islands where it is so small, they have to cut it down in such small chunks that sometimes the ability to do that can become a challenge. But the technology does exist that you can become a bit more specific in giving areas as to where you're likely to expect certain amount of rain. It is easier for them after they've collected at the AWS to say what has happened than to be able to forecast what is likely to happen. So this is why they would give you that the state of Grenada is expected to receive 2 to 3 inches of rain over that period of time, and not specific to St. George's or St. Patrick.
Understandably so. Let's go to the phone line. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Good morning, it's GT. I would like to ask Mr. Sylvan if he can tell me what mechanism is used in predicting the hurricane season. What is used? What mechanism is used to predict how many hurricanes, how many other systems, how many will turn into hurricane, how many with this? What mechanism is used to forecast, to predict what will take place? Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. So I do not want to step out of my territory. I'm not really a meteorologist, but I do understand something in meteorology and forecasting. But the forecasting and is not predictions necessarily. They are based on existing and past models of how hurricanes and tropical cyclones are formed. So there are computer models that they use, and they would put the formulas together, and that would give them a particular forecast as to what is expected over a period of time. And this is why they would give a preliminary, they would give a closer to the June period, and they would give what could be, and there's always a parameter as to you can expect about within those, because it is not always accurate. There are times when they give those predictions, they predict the number of hurricanes and storms that are likely to happen, but what happens with our meteorologists, they do forecasting rather than prediction. So it is really based on computer modeling and what you call return and accumulative periods. They use them to determine. And similar in terms of getting the names of storms and hurricanes, it is not scientific. It is just that they've decided that they're going to give particular alphabetical names, and when one of these names come, it may be male, female, or otherwise. If one of them develops into a very strong hurricane that may have caused devastating consequences, they would drop it off the list. And what happens, they would do a return cycle. So you may see after about 10 years that names of particular storms and hurricane may appear, but those that made landfall and created some problems, you will not see them come forward. But there is a deeper explanation in terms of how the forecasting happens, but this is not my level, and I would not want to confuse anybody further into that. But just to see that there is computer modeling that they do use to give what those predictions could be.
Okay. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you for accepting my call. And Mr. Sylvan McIntyre, I'm glad to see you this morning, and I'm always looking forward to hear you on the program because I do learn a lot. So thank you so much for being on the program. When you start earlier during the program this morning, we were using the word bad weather, quote unquote bad weather, and inclement weather, and so on. And notwithstanding the semantics involved, I think when the tire hits the road, that's what actually matters in terms of folks' interpretation of the information. And I just want to clarify some things, because we have, as a people, we have a sort of colloquial way of describing things, and in the context of the tone of our voice and so on, that the meaning may be interpreted. So it's not just the word itself, but the tone of the voice, the expression, and so on that goes into it. And notwithstanding the semantics, which I'm not going to make an issue here, let me just call it inclement weather. If there's inclement weather forecasted, and some concern about a thunderstorm. You mentioned about you like to go in the garden, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm not sure if you use the word thunderstorm, but if that involves thunderstorm, that quote-unquote inclement weather, do you think it's a good idea to be doing that, or do you think it's empirically it may be a better idea not to do that because of the dangers of lightning and so on with trees and so on? So I just want to make sure when the tire hits the road that you're a person of expertise, and I look forward to hearing what you say, that folks, I don't get the wrong impression, and folks don't get the wrong impression also. And secondly, I'm not going to get into any rebuttal here. That's not the purpose of my call at all. I don't have the energy for that. What I would say is that weather forecasting or predicting and so on, again, with whatever terminology we use to describe it, there's a science to it, but there's also an art to it. And the art involves some level of interpretation based on models and past experience and so on. And back, I'm going to segue again back to the quote unquote bad weather or inclement weather. Sometimes there may be a case appropriately made for people avoiding going on certain errands, because certain areas, for where I live, for example, it doesn't take much rain to cause the area to be flooded, and there could be hydroplaning and so on. So, so those kind of information can be very important. So I just want to make sure folks don't get the wrong impression. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution there. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so the caller is absolutely correct. He's on point. And we want to continue to reiterate that whatever information that we give here on the program, there are sometimes we put our personal touch to it, but we try to ensure that people understand that the Met Services and the NADMA, they are the official source of information, and they should be guided by the information that is given. And in terms of being out when information is given, that is a personal choice of people, as we say, it is guided. So me trying to be out and doing things is just being my own sense of innovation. And he's right in terms of metal and lightnings and so forth. You would understand that you need to be careful dealing with these things when you have lightnings and such. So again, it is specific to people and the interpretation and the understanding. There are times when information is given to marine and boaters and some people say do not venture out, or how far you should venture out. But you would not get the fine details as to say you should not go out of your house, you should not pick up a cutlass, you should not go farming, you should not. There are sometimes that information would be specific, and there are other times it will be left to your own understanding based on how you interpret or understand the impact could be.
All right, let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Good morning and thank you. Concerning weather and forecast and disasters, whatever. Now, who is the controller of these things, or who is it? Who is in control? Jesus. Now, when these things happen, the expertise, they have a job to do. Maybe they might read certain things and say it will be passing here, it will happen this way, it will happen that way. But at the end of the matter, the final judge is Jesus, he who controls these things. So if he wants this stone to pass here, he will allow it. If he don't want it to pass, it wouldn't pass. So many a times people blaming the expertise and saying, well, oh, they know what they're doing. But they are not in control of these things. They might read it, they saw it was coming. But when Jesus decides to say, no, not this way, it's just not this way. That's the control of it, and they have to understand and honor God for this, because he is the controller of these things. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution this morning. And I'm seeing some comments here. Let's go to the Facebook page. And someone said that they're very happy. It's very informative in terms of the program this morning. Thank you there for the individual who is viewing and listening. And we have Vanessa is asking a question, Mr. McIntyre. He's saying, do you think that the cutting down of, well, I'm assuming in this too, I'm not sure it's him or her, but and as they say that, do you think that the cutting down of the rainforest, example, the tall trees to put up wall buildings can affect the amount of rain received in that particular area? So that's a question they're asking.
And that doesn't need a lot to answer. Ernesto makes my life pretty easy with the question. Yeah, absolutely true. It does affect and could affect the rainfall. Let us use Haiti for an example. I've been there a number of times, walked there, and they deforested almost the entire place. So when the rain fall, it creates immediate land slippage and flooding immediately. So you have flash flooding that will take place very, very quick. In terms of setting buildings up, there are two disadvantages to that. The trees attract the rainfall. Yep. And I remember there was one time, and I think it was the Gary's era, when they said carry a tree to Carriacou. You old enough to know that, JT?
I don't think I'm old.
Right. There was one time when Carriacou was very, very dry and not green and lush as it is now. And so there was a campaign to bring trees to Carriacou so that they could have attracted rain. So trees do and forests do attract rainfall. And this is why you also have the rainforest, and the rainforests are usually protected. And there are a number of reasons, the flora and the fauna, and for climatology and climate effects, etc., so that you can have rainfall. So once you remove trees, there are a number of disadvantages to that. You set a building up. What buildings do as well, they would also trap water in a particular direction. You put your guttering and your spouting, etc., and your drains, and you channel them into a particular area. So the disadvantage is that you have faster runoff if you have concrete drains that can lead to flooding down the street. And if you do not have proper drainage, you can also have land slippage and landslides. So yes, the answer to that.
So there is advantage and disadvantage.
But with everything else, human beings have to coexist with nature. We have to be conscious of the environment and do things that are environmentally friendly. But at the same time, we need habitation, we need homes and other places. So houses have to be built. And this is why land development and planning is critical in any country, so that buildings should not be built everywhere. You have to also protect the catchment area. Now, also depends on the rainfall to generates and collects water and treat them for us. If we have the rainforest being cleared and all the trees taken away, it will definitely decrease the amount of rainfall. It's going to decrease the amount of catchment we have in water and so forth, and it's going to have negative consequences down the street.
All right,
for us.
Let's entertain a caller, the final caller in this segment, and then before we take that break, I guess we lost that caller for some reason or the other. So, Margaret, we due for a break. Let's take it and come back inside our final segment. All right, after the break. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point. We're coming right back.
Now, it's considered to be one of the biggest threats to the world's oceans. Delegates from UN member states are gathering to confront the problem of plastic pollution. The goal is to agree on a global...
Given a chance, your plastic would choose to be put to more beneficial use. Choose recycling.
Ministry of Tourism and Economic Development and the Grenada Tourism Authority extend a warm welcome to visitors and returning nationals visiting for Carnival and summer vacation. We do hope you enjoy your stay with us, and we invite you to return with friends and family to celebrate our 50th anniversary of independence on 7th February 2024. Tourism is my business, your business, our business.
Having your CVQ qualification is one of the best things you can do right now.
This course really helped me to build my confidence and have the ability to present.
I've learned a lot about customer service, a lot about etiquette.
It was quite a learning experience, which I enjoy a lot.
Well, it really impacted my life at Digital. 6 months, I got permanent. I also got promoted to at sales representative at a store. 8 months after, I got a next promotion at the corporate care.
You can find jobs within the CARICOM using your CVQ qualifications.
Don't let nobody tell you that you can't make it. No, just go forward and do what you have to.
Who are we? National Training Agency.
Enhancing the employment.
The NLA is giving you more chances to multiply your Playway winnings by adding Multi-X to your regular Playway bets to win up to 5 times more. Imagine winning as much as $1,200 instead of $240 with a $10 Playway bet by simply adding Multi-X. Place your Playway bets from $1 to $10 or in increments on your favorite Playway symbols or numbers. Then add the Multi-X option at the same value to win 2 times, 3 times, 5 times more, or free plays. With Multi-X, you must bet the same amount wagered on your regular Playway bets for your winnings to be multiplied. Grenadians, value your dreams and win your way as much as 5 times more with Multi-X added to Playway, and watch your money grow. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point for today, Monday, the 21st of August. With me this morning, we have Mr. Sylvan McIntyre. And we're talking this morning. Our conversation, we start taking the calls. We got slightly diverted. And, of course, phone calls are always welcomed. Yes. I want us to focus a little bit in this final segment, Mr. McIntyre. We have just wrapped up, the carnival seasons. And, maybe there were not lots of emergency that was mentioned or even announced in terms of all of these emergencies, but there's always that issue of emergencies before and during and after the carnival season.
Yes.
What are some of these emergencies you would like to speak of this morning?
I started the journey into the carnival season just, I think, 2 weeks before, in terms of highlighting some emergencies that are likely to occur. Like bleeding emergencies. People may get an incision, they may get a puncture or something on the other, and they would bleed. And I also spoke of the dehydrating issues, where people may not have taken sufficient water, and so they can have dehydrating issues, and so sometimes they would collapse or they would faint. And the other aspect of it are those respiratory issues, where people have challenges in breathing, and that has to do with a number of factors. But of concerns would have been those injuries that were inflicted by others and how they were dealt with. And the other one on the other side of it were the accident, motor vehicle accidents and so on. I tried to have gotten some of the statistics from the traffic department. I guess they're going to speak about it later on. Okay. But what I did get that was there was between the 11th and the 15th, there was something like 58 accidents. Yeah. And there was only one that was serious. That in itself is giving an indicator that things may have been lighter during the carnival season than maybe previous ones. And kudos to the police officers, the traffic department. I think they did a fantastic job in policing those events and the roads and our streets. What we hope that we would have seen a bit more is that when you have traffic accidents that lead in injuries, that more, not just police officers, but bystanders and so on, they become involved in wanting to assist and knowing how to assist. We've mentioned this a few times on our program, saying that we wish to see more organized community response. There was one accident that I saw post-Carnival And there were a number of persons. There was a female that was involved.
Yeah.
And she seemed to have obviously panicked. A vehicle was struck from behind and then ran off and so forth. And she was almost unconscious in the seat. And I was there and I was wondering whether or not there was somebody. And there were people around. But the driver of the vehicle was in the vehicle, in the seat. And there seemed to have been a warden came through. But the obvious, the persons who were there close, they seem to have been just standing back. And what could have happened there, I went. Obviously, my vehicle will be like my Knight Rider.
Yeah.
Once there's an emergency, it pulls up.
You're on the move.
And we're on the move. And so I went over to see what happened. And this lady was there with blood and so coming from just the top of her eye. And she had an open wound that was bleeding. But she was conscious. The warden was speaking to her. I reassured her in that kind of voice, broke the seat back a bit, relaxed her, and went off to get something to help deal with that wound until eventually she was taken to the hospital. Right. But as I'm saying, we would have wished to see more of these. We didn't hear about a lot of stabbing, but anytime there is an incident where somebody is bleeding, what one wants to do is to ensure that you minimize the loss of blood, because eventually somebody can go into shock. And so when somebody seems to be pinned, in this case, the airbag is what inflated and eventually popped. And she said that that wound that she got over her eye was as a result of the airbag. Yeah. And so people need to be mindful of that. And I don't know if somewhere along the line they need to report it to figure out whether that should happen in that vehicle, whether it malfunctioned or that's the way it should have. But people need to be conscious of the vehicles that they drive and what safety mechanisms are in it and what can happen as a result of a failure of these things not functioning properly.
So as you speak about airbag, the cutting on your friend, I witnessed an accident a few weeks ago, a week or two before Carnival, and with the same employee, the airbag deployed.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've had the driver disoriented for a wee bit. You understand? Even though he got out of the vehicle, but he was like, disoriented for a wee bit. And you can see it's because of the impact of the air. Not even I wouldn't say it with the impact of the accident, but I think the airbag deploying on him, something that had him disoriented there for a wee bit. And people were saying, don't touch him and don't touch him and don't touch him. But sometimes you need to offer assistance.
You need to. Yes.
So I actually told him maybe he should just lay down and relax.
You bring the seat back if he's the driver a little bit.
He actually came out of the vehicle.
He
came out and sat on the ground.
Right.
And but he was still very much disoriented there for a wee bit.
He would have gone. He was going probably in a state of shock. Yeah. That kind of a shock, anxiety shock, sort of. People do get into that. So there are a number of factors. One could be the explosion or that airbag inflating itself.
Yeah.
That could have created some psychological impact on the individual. In addition to that, it could have created some physical impact based on the proximity. The person may have been close to the steering, and that could have created some impact. But what one has to do is to evaluate what happened, whether or not you have minimized a greater effect that could have happened. Yeah. Because what the airbag, you may get injury from an airbag. You may get some kind of an impact from it. But what has to be assessed, whether that impact prevented you from getting a crushing chest wound as a result of you crashing into the steering wheel or into the dashboard. So that is what the airbag is there for, to cushion that space between your body and the dashboard or the steering wheel. Yeah. So had that bag not inflate or expose itself, the person could have gone forward and crashed into the steering, and you could have had the most serious internal injuries like the rib cage, the chest, the thoracic cavity, and all that. Those could have caused some fracture, and you could have had internal bleeding and other things. So you could create the lesser of the greater in terms of what could have happened. And if you receive a little cut, I would prefer to receive a slight incision, an open wound, rather than my chest getting crushed.
Exactly, and then the internal problem develops.
Could be greater.
Let's entertain a call. Caller, good morning, welcome. Guess that caller still has an issue there with their phone. 435-2041 if you do want to talk about it. We continue to speak about the issues that could have occurred.
Yes.
And during the carnival season in terms of the emergencies. And we said we're happy that we didn't have the magnitude of it.
Right.
And you said you thanked the Royal Grenada Police Force, especially the traffic department, for the level of control that was exhibited.
And the information
that was disseminated also
before.
I would like to say a lot of folks maybe have followed through on it.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And I think think that kind of made a plus in terms of not hearing any major issues.
Yes.
Even there were the accidents that occurred. I mean, we had lots of visitors who maybe everybody's not always sensitized about the movements of the vehicle in Grenada. So if you would have found out, but most of the accidents, I would say they would have occurred from folks who may have visited the island.
Yes.
You understand? And that may have caused those accidents, but as you said, there was not much serious ones that.
And those are the kind of analysis we would like to do, and if we want to sit with the police, the traffic department, to do the analysis on the postmortem of those situations and to figure out how we can address them further. And I think the Asha McIntyre Road Safety Foundation, those are some of the things that we're digging into, so we can give statistical information and strategic interventions as to how we can minimize these things. We have to also give kudos to the Spice Mass Corporation for incorporating some safety measures and ensuring that people outside of the police force, law enforcement is not just about police, safety is not just about police, it's just about everyone. And so we saw that there were some limitations in those that could be beefed up, but I think they did a good job engaging some of us in terms of advising on some of the security issues that are likely to occur and how they could curb them. So we hope going forward that will become a precedence where you do a survey, identify the risk areas and put in the interventions before they happen. And after it has gone, you do a postmortem and look forward to the next one.
I would like to see a faster response in terms of the postmortem of the carnival. I don't think I think carnival wrapped up the Tuesday, by Thursday, Friday we should have gotten a bit of a postmortem of carnival.
Yes.
I'm not sure of the reason why it's not out yet in terms of this has occurred as we had some announcement that came out, but nothing too detailed.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
I mean, sometimes that helps in terms of a program like ours.
Yes,
we have.
of course.
It helps in terms of being able to disseminate information, and this is what we thought, or maybe we could have done this way or could have done that way. You understand?
Yes. So what they've done, maybe not give us that postmortem information as quickly as we should, but they've also given us the 2024 schedule of events already. So they focus on so they focus on 2024, but we want to get what happened in 2023 so we can correct it going into 2024.
I agree. Yes. Let's entertain our caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Hi, good morning, and thank you so much for this program this morning. I just wanted to call to reiterate something that Mr. McIntyre mentioned. And I have a nursing background, and I have worked in Canada and worked in other places, but I'm currently teaching. But I also wanted to say that we need to get out of the mentality of thinking that taking pictures is going to save people's lives, because the time that you're taking to take these pictures, you could be doing something to save lives. And this is a global issue. I mean, it's not only in Grenada, but I think I've had the experience of people sending pictures to show the most graphic content, when if someone had done something or tried to do something, you could have potentially saved the person's life. So I just want people to just think of that, and I thank you so much, Mr. McIntyre, for the work that you do. I've met you before through SGU, and I'm very familiar with you and the work that you do, but I just want people to get into the idea that any little thing you can do to help could potentially save a person's life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller. And I'm in total agreement with the caller, because it goes back to the same incidents I was talking to you about with the individual that they back. And instead of individuals offering assistance, everybody was videotaping this. Everybody was making a video of it. It so happens.
Before we take this other caller, we don't want to lose this one. It's a proactive measure. One thing I would like to see householders becoming more used to is what they call a BP, blood pressure machines. A lot of people go down with high blood pressure or too low for blood pressure as well, and people should learn to use blood pressure machines, and it should become a household item to understand what is the systolic and what is the diastolic and what is a pulse rate of an average person. And when you measure that, you can tell yourself, here what? You may need to calm the person down by either speaking to them in a particular way, or giving them particular drinks, or not giving them particular drinks, or having them to get to the A&E or the emergency and accident emergency department as quickly as possible. So a blood pressure machine is what I definitely would kind of for this period as a proactive measure, not just for emergencies, but a continuous monitoring of people's blood pressure and so on. That is critical. The systolic is the higher level, 120. The diastolic is the lower level, which is average average 80. And one's blood pressure is 60 to 100 times per minute. And an average person, the heartbeat would be about 77 if they are at rest or otherwise. If it goes way beyond it or under that, you may have some cause for concerns. So people need to understand those, keep one in a home, understand how to read it, and follow your blood pressure checks, if not every day, but at least weekly. You just keep a tab as to where you are, because we've seen people get stroke, they get other